Decades later, Xinjiang archaeologists theorized that humans could have occupied Lulan long before the Silk Road began, in 200 AD. Joined by a Japanese team, they mounted the most ambitious desert expedition in Chinese history. An ancient citadel was excavated, and a strange formation surfaced. Wooden stakes were found arranged in concentric rings. They marked the tomb of 6 male corpses. The most sensational find was yet to come. The body was found wrapped in a coffin of poplar wood. The package looked as though it were buried yesterday. Layer after layer of treated fabric was peeled away. A woman appeared, 144 centimeters tall. She was utterly preserved, along with her wardrobe. Called the Beauty of Lulan, her features were strikingly Caucasian. But the search for mummies was not yet complete. In 1985, Xinjiang's archaeologists moved the search to southeastern Taklamakan. In Chechun County, they struck gold. Several hundred tomb sites were discovered. They found a mummified infant wrapped in purple wool. The eyes were covered in colored stones to keep the lids closed. A second grave was completely undisturbed and provided the most spectacular mummies found to date. The male, nicknamed Chechun Man, must have cut quite a figure when alive. Archaeologists calculated he stood nearly 2 meters tall. Even in death, the features of his face were strong, his blonde eyelashes and beard intact. A female mummy, Chechun Woman, had yellowish-brown hair arranged in 4 braids. The preservation was so complete that the couple seemed more asleep than dead. 14 decrease at a well-established speed that reveals its age. At the Urumqi Institute of Geology, wood pieces found in the mummy burials were heated to release carbon dioxide gas. The gas was purified and condensed. The samples were placed in a machine to measure the rate of carbon-14 emissions. The moment of truth had come, as computers calculated the ages of the specimens. The dates that confronted Wang Binghua and his colleagues were almost beyond belief. Through carbon dating, the mummies of Xinjiang were forced, at last, to admit their age. Reflected in the faces of the Xinjiang mummies lay a new revelation. This male died in the Gobi 1,200 years ago, about the time Charlemagne became the first Holy Roman Emperor. Earlier still, Chechun Man was buried 3,000 years ago, the period when Troy was destroyed in the Trojan Wars. Wu-Pu woman predates Chechen man by 2 centuries more. Earlier still, some 3,500 years ago, as the Greeks devised their first alphabet, this child took its last breath in China. The Lulan beauty holds the age record. She was buried 4,000 years ago.
Be more precise at this point, because I would need more samples for that.
The mummies of Xinjiang are possibly the end players of a migration that shaped our world. Along a grassland highway came prehistoric explorers looking for richer pastures. Ultimately, they crossed the snowy mountain passes into China.
When you look into the face of one of these mummies, you're looking at an individual who played a role in a drama that ultimately united the East with the West. A moment in history when Eurasia was tied together as a single world. And it's a moment that, through the innovations that were developed at that time, has ultimately affected almost all of the people in the world.
The fate of these ancient explorers is the final mystery to be solved. Based on the human remains discovered, the last of the Caucasoid mummies lived 2,500 years ago. This leaves the question, what happened to these people? As the mummy excavations continued, the remains of Asians were discovered buried side by side with Caucasians, all from the same period.
They seem to have gotten along very well and even intermarried. And it's interesting to observe that they were buried in the same graves sometimes. I think this is a good indication that people can get along together, even 3,000 years ago.
We can only imagine the moment when East met West, at the emotions that flowed from one side to the other. Perhaps both peoples looked beyond the shape of an eye or the cut of their cloth, and recognized something incredible had happened. That beyond the grasslands and deserts that once seemed so endless, they were not alone. Mixed by time, the threads of blood and family, East and West, merged and disappeared into the fabric of China itself.